Hey everyone, welcome to this video about my anti-racism and white supremacy shadow work. So in case you don't know what shadow work is, it is basically self-reflection. It is working on your own issues. It is working on things you may have suppressed. And it is also working on collective shadows, which in this case, institutionalized racism is definitely a big issue. Police brutality is a big issue. And in doing my personal work, I am priming myself for the change that I want to happen in the world, and that is why I'm doing this shadow work. So I was watching Kellyanne Maddox's video about her anti-racism shadow work, and even before then I thought I have to make a video about this, but after she made that video I was like, okay, I definitely have to make a video about it. So who am I addressing with this video? With this video, I'm mostly addressing white people who are struggling, white people who don't know what to do, white people who also want to do shadow work around this topic and who want to tackle this in a spiritual way, besides all of the other ways in which they are committed to helping the cause, which in my case is signing petitions, donating, creating content about it to help people understand better, to help spread awareness, and to also just kind of keep a watch on the discourse and giving my own input whenever I feel it is helpful or it might add to the discussion. So if you need encouragement, if you need some tough love in order to do your shadow work as a white person, then this is basically the time to think about this, and I hope that this video can help in this endeavor. The messages that I have and the things that I think about are mostly going to be relevant to white people who are also trying to do this work and who try to support the fight against institutionalized racism, against the very ingrained structures of white supremacy in our society. So why am I making this video at all? Why am I talking about this at all? I think it's very important that we keep talking about this topic and that we don't just leave it behind once the whole George Floyd thing blows over and the news cycle moves on. I think even beyond that, we have to be committed to this world, to this work, not world, but also world, to this work and this world. Because I think, I already posted a lot on Instagram about it, and I don't want this video to be me complaining or me focusing on myself. I just want this to come across as educational, essentially, and as helpful for other people who are doing their shadow work as well. Because I think we are always at the danger of simply saying we've done enough, or my anti-racism work is done, even though it is a work that we have to do all our lives, because checking our privilege, checking that white supremacy isn't taking over our workplace or our country or our systems, which honestly it's already taken that over because it's the standard mindset. But anyways, I don't want to get into that now, but we just have to be watchful. We have to be careful. So what will I talk about in this video? In the first part of the video, I want to talk about how I do my shadow work and what I do in it. And I also want to talk about the lessons that all of this has taught me. Then secondly, I want to talk about what it has taught me in a positive way, because in the first one, it's going to be more my struggles, maybe what other people struggle with. And then in the second part, I want to talk about what it has shown me about myself in positive ways and how I think this movement, has changed me for the better, and hopefully also is changing the world. So, and thirdly, I want to talk about what bothers me about the discourse in the spiritual community, but also outside the spiritual community. Also, I'm going to show some Instagram posts probably next to me. I don't know if I will forget to mention them, but I think they are very, very important to look at and important to understand. And then in the end, I also want to talk about a little bit of a conundrum that I'm stuck with, that I'm still working through, that I'm trying to make sense of, and maybe you guys can give me your input about that. I keep touching this rose next to me, so I'm just going to scoot that as I'm wildly gesticulating as I always do. Okay, so first of all, how I do my shadow work and what it is about. Now, I work a lot, as you guys know, in my private shadow work as well, my normal shadow work, with journaling prompts, which means that either I take other creators' journaling prompts or my own journaling prompts and just write what comes to my mind. Sometimes I also draw tarot cards in order to inspire myself, and I'm definitely going to link some resources below to journaling prompts that I personally found helpful and that I personally worked with. Now, another thing I did, if you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen this. I might have actually posted them on YouTube as well. I made some commitments to this cause and to my own anti-racism work to keep myself accountable so that people see what I'm doing. I'm not just saying like, oh, I'm doing things, you know. I want to put these commitments into words and hold myself accountable for them. And I would recommend that anyone does this. Not just think like, oh, I could do this, I could do that, and then you quickly do it, and then you're sort of done with it. It's a constant process, and I think that's important to stay consistent with, because I really had to break out of some patterns of comfort that I have, where I tell myself that I've done enough, but we will get to that a little bit later as well. But this is definitely, you know, just the act of writing down the commitments, I would say, was shadow work as well, because some things came up for me, some things I was like, is this too much? Is this too little? And I just had to kind of find my way and challenge myself enough, and be brave enough to challenge myself in these ways while writing down my commitments. Now let's talk about some shadows that I faced. I think the biggest one, and I think many white people probably face this shadow, and many have it but don't think about it and don't address it at all. But yes, there have been times where this whole thing has been so exhausting for me, white fragility, that I was wishing that I could just go back to posting normal content and go back to my normal, you know, video creation, back to my normal post creation on Instagram, and just go back to that state beforehand. Now, these moments never last very long for me, but when they come up, I can tell that this is just my wish of keeping the privilege that I have, keeping the amount of people who listen to me based on the fact that I'm white, keeping the attention that I'm able to get because I'm white. All of this comes up for a second, and I'm like, I wish I could just go back to that for 1 second. And then I think about it and I'm like, no, this is the exact discomfort that I'm supposed to feel and that I have to feel. And that is just one minute ounce of what Black people feel every day. That feeling of maybe not being at the center of the stage, maybe not getting as much attention as you deserve, and maybe not being able to create content without being defined by the color of your skin. That is something they go through every day. And for me, this was something that came up at some point where I was so exhausted by creating content about anti-racism that I was just like, I want to create something like before. And of course, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to completely shift my focus towards anti-racism. But as I said in my commitments and in my additional commitments as well, I definitely want this topic to be a part of my channel and to play a role on my channel because it is important work, and I want to use my platform as a white person and use the fact that people listen to me because I'm white for the good of this cause. And I also noticed, even though I have these commitments, I definitely think that as my Instagram feed gets less populated by posts about Black Lives Matter and everyone is kind of going back to a little bit of their normal content, once people stopped posting about it, I didn't have as much to share. And that's when I caught myself and I thought, okay, don't forget, you also have to actively search for the resources that you want to share on your profile. Don't just lean back, look at your Instagram feed and share all of the Black creators' voices that you see or the other people that share content about this, but rather also actively search for content consciously online, not just through your Instagram feed, which, let's not make any illusions, before long our Instagram feeds are going to look significantly less full of Black Lives Matter subjects, of police brutality subjects. And I think it's important that even as that happens, or Facebook or whatever you use, I'm saying Instagram because I use Instagram mostly, and even as that happens, we have to remember that it's not just about passively consuming these things, but also actively searching for resources online and informing and educating ourselves. Now I want to talk about something that is a little bit difficult, and I'm undecided on how I feel about it. Now, I've noticed, I don't know if I'd call it a shadow, but I definitely have an issue with calling people out when I see that they don't post. I wonder to myself, I'm like, should I call them out? Should I ask these people? Should I hold them accountable? And I'm still undecided about it. Honestly, I shouldn't be undecided. Even as I'm saying it, I'm like, obviously, you should ask these people what they think and why they aren't posting about it. And by the way, my opinion very much aligns with Kellyanne Maddox's opinion here, where she says that people who say, oh, I'm doing all this anti-racism work behind the scenes in my private life, but I don't share it. How would you even know how much anti-racism work I do? This, to me, I don't buy it. I think if you are not sharing anything on your social media, which is one of the easiest things to do, I'm not inclined to believe that you do a whole lot outside of that. This is something I struggle with because I always keep switching with, do I have to be compassionate to people who say they don't want to post, but they do all this work behind the scenes? Or should I call them out and should I say, what's so hard about posting, you know? I'm very torn on this and very unsure how to reconcile that, because I know social media isn't everybody's thing and I know everyone has their own way of contributing, but at the same time I'm thinking, what's the issue here? Why don't you want to post, other than the fear of losing followers, the fear of getting into a discussion maybe with someone? I don't understand. Now, this made me think of the TikTok. I don't know if you guys know that. Anyways, that TikTok song, I don't understand. I don't understand, bitch. Don't understand. So yeah, I don't understand why people don't post, in all honesty. And I'm still thinking about whether I have to be compassionate towards that and understanding of it, or whether those people are just deluding themselves. Now, another thing is, I don't want to complain about doing this work because I know this is, as I said, just a tiny bit as hard as it is for Black people and for people of color to live everyday life. But nevertheless, I want to say that it's exhausting and it's emotional work a lot of the time. And I don't do it for fun. I do it because it's the right thing to do, because I want to do it, because it's important for me, because I think that Black voices are important, that Black voices need to be heard, you know, they're valuable. And this is something I read and that I really vibed with. Not to say that Black Lives Matter is a bad phrase, but I think Black lives don't just matter, you know? It's not like, oh, this matters. They are actually important. They are precious. They are a part of culture. They are so many things, which also is shown by the fact that obviously white people have taken Black culture on and use it for their own purposes and love Black culture. So Black culture, it doesn't just matter. It's lively, it's energetic, it's inspiring to many, just like any other culture, but I'm just taking this as an example. And I think it's important to kind of switch that in our minds, that we don't just say like, oh, Black lives matter as well, who knew, but more like Black lives are precious. Black lives are important. Black lives inspire. Black voices help us, you know? Black voices teach us. And not because they are Black, but because they are humans and they have a human experience. Anyone's voice matters. Anyone's voice can teach you something. And it's just about the fact that their voices are less heard. And that is something that we need to change. So anyways, I was going to say I'm not going to complain, but it doesn't make me happy that I get pushback from white people. And it doesn't make me sad. It makes me sort of disappointed, especially in some people I know. Some of the things I hear people say that I love and that that matter to me. Some people saying I'm doing too much for this, or I'm just doing it for myself. I'm just doing it because it's the right thing and I want to, feel good about myself, or I want to, show people, as Kellyanne said in her video, to get cookies, as if I just did it to get cookies. And that has legitimately made me break with some people that I love and changed my relationships to some people that I like as well, and changed my boundaries with some people that were important to me. And I'm fine with that because I know that I'm not doing too much. And I know that the energy I put into this, even if I make mistakes sometimes, even if maybe I'm a bit too intense sometimes, it's not wrong to do this. And I don't do it for myself. I do it because legitimately inside of me, there is a pain, there is anger, there is, a red hot fire that makes me want to stand up for this cause because it fucking matters and it's important to me. And I cannot understand why it doesn't matter that much to people, and why some people project their own issues and project their own sickness of this whole topic onto me and say it's my fault they are sick of it now because I posted too much about it. And I'm like, wow. So it's my fault, huh? This lack of self-reflection, this self-delusion, So yeah, we all have to learn that this makes us uncomfortable, that this makes us uneasy, and that we have to keep pushing through that. Despite everything, now I just shook the camera. Despite everything that is maybe going on in our private lives, we have to still push on and still keep going, and not let ourselves be deterred by how uncomfortable or uneasy it might make us feel. Now, another shadow that I want to talk about is the fact that sometimes I think I have done enough. And this is an interesting one because I feel like in every other aspect of our lives, we train ourselves not to be too hard on ourselves. We think, okay, I can't work 12 hours a day. After a certain amount of hours and work, I just have to tell myself enough is enough. You can relax now. And we let ourselves off the hook, And this makes sense in a lot of areas of your life. But I don't think it makes sense here if we use it to bypass our own discomfort. Because sometimes when people get uncomfortable, they're like, oh, I think I've done enough, But it's not actually because they've done enough or because they are exhausted. It's just because they get a little bit uncomfortable. And this is something that happens for me as well. So I definitely try to keep that in check and to keep pushing myself to work through that. And to not say, oh, I signed enough petitions, I donated, so that's enough now, or I read enough, I looked at enough posts. I just have to keep myself going about this. And I'm very rigorous about that and very stoic about that. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. That's actually kind of a positive thing I learned from this, that I can be stoic and that I can keep going if I push myself. So I think, of course, we need time for self-care, to take care of ourselves and to not engage with this 24/7, put our phones away, not look at Instagram all the time. But we also have to be very vigilant when we are just saying we've done enough in order to avoid an uncomfortable topic. And you know, this idea of like, oh, I have done so much work, I'm already far above a lot of white people, so I can stop now. You know, those other white people have done less, now I'm far ahead and I can stop. No. That's not good, that's not logical. And it's not about reaching a certain amount of activism. It's just about following that fire within you, following the rage that you have, the sacred rage that makes us want to stand up for this cause. Now I want to talk about white fragility for a second, because I struggled with this for about a few minutes. Like, this was a shadow that was like, it was easy for me to get rid of in this case. But I still want to talk about it because, you know, in the beginning I had these feelings too. I'm not saying I was like, bam, shmam, out of the door, easy. No. In the beginning, I had these feelings as well for a little bit, like, oh, what if I do something wrong? What if I create content and I get criticized for it? What if I say something that hurts someone? Or what if I criticize someone who doesn't like it? Or, you know, all of these questions. Do I know enough to post about this? And I think it's very important that we are aware of the fact that this mindset, if we had this in every aspect of our lives, we would never get anywhere, because life is a risk. And if you are not willing to take risks, which many of us are not, many of us are too afraid to speak up about anything. If you are not able to do this, nothing will ever happen if you don't take risks. And the fucked up thing is, if I did not speak up, and if I did not sit with this discomfort, and if I did not post about it, probably nothing would happen to me, you know? Unless someone calls me out on it, which I would hope that would happen. But as a white privileged person, I could just ignore this. And that feels so fucked up to me that, you know, usually if you don't take a risk in life, you get sort of unhappy. You know, if you don't dare to look for a new job, you don't dare to move to a new place, you don't dare to tell someone that you love them, you will regret it later. And I hope that I would regret this later as well, but I don't know if you know what I mean. But this risk, it's not a big risk for me to take, to speak up about this, you know? Even if someone corrects me, even if someone criticizes me, my ego and my self-confidence are stable enough to take that and to just be like, okay, I learned something, and not take it so damn personal and think that, you know, I have to feel really bad about it when someone criticizes me. I think this is an issue that a lot of white people have, that as soon as someone says they did something wrong, they start having an issue with that. They start taking it personally and they go into defense mode. If someone tells you, why didn't you post on social media? And your first reaction is, well, because I do so much behind the scenes, I don't need to post on social media, etc., etc. That's a defense reaction. Don't take it personally. Just explain whatever. But so many people take it personally, and I think that's not right, because this isn't about us. So if I get criticized, it's fine, you know, not in the sense that, oh, it's fine, I don't care, but it's fine because I can learn from it. And that was definitely something that I didn't have much fear around. In the beginning, I struggled with it, with this white fragility, but then I moved on from it rather quickly. But I am also privileged in this regard, in the sense that I'm rarely afraid to speak my opinion. I'm not afraid of conflict. Some people are. So I'm not saying, oh, it's easy for everyone, just move on. I'm just saying that's how it was for me. One struggle for me is, though, that I think sometimes I show my anger too much. And I think there is a lot of validity to sacred anger, to sacred rage about this whole topic. And I'm saying sacred because I'm seeing it in a spiritual way as well. But sometimes I show that anger too much and maybe people are upset by it. And then I think, but I do want to make people uncomfortable, you know? They need to feel uncomfortable and work on it. But sometimes I guess maybe my anger shows a bit too much. I don't know. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on that as well, because I feel like if someone is made uncomfortable by something I say, they should really think about why that is. Why that is. This is what this work requires, that we don't just, if I call someone out on not posting, if I tell people there's no excuse not to post and you feel uncomfortable about it, think about why that is. I think that is important work to do. So I don't want to be the center of my content. I want to educate. I want to provide resources. And by sharing my own experience, hopefully inspire others as well. That is my goal, not to make people feel bad about themselves necessarily, but at the same time, the discomfort kind of comes with this work. Now we have a few more shadows to go through. This is getting long. Let's talk about prioritizing your own private shadow work. Yes. After getting very, very angry last week about what I saw on social media, or rather what I didn't see, about people not reacting, people not posting anything, big companies not posting anything, it made me really exert myself in a lot of emotional ways because I didn't understand. And also, struggling with people who said that I was doing too much, that it was annoying what I was doing, all of these things. And that put me in a place where I had to take care of myself a little bit for a while and where I had to prioritize my own shadow work. But that is kind of a slippery slope where I want to make clear that yes, do your own shadow work, deal with your own issues, but also remember that you don't just live for yourself. You are part of this world and you can change this world if you allow yourself to be a part of it and speak up. And I think that is very important, to not just focus on our own work and our own well-being, but to also think of the collective and of the society we are trying to build. So definitely, as I am still prioritizing my own shadow work that has come up indirectly from all of this, I still also keep a focus on doing my anti-racism work. And the last thing I want to say is to not just post or do the work where you are comfortable. In the beginning, this was an amazing realization I had, was that I only posted on Instagram, maybe on YouTube, maybe on my business Facebook. And then I realized, shit, I also have WhatsApp. I also have my private Facebook. And why don't I post there? And then I thought but I'm already doing so much on my business account. Do I really have to post on my private social media? And then I thought about it for 5 more seconds and I'm like, yes, I do. It's making me uncomfortable and I'm trying to find an excuse not to post on WhatsApp, not to post on my private Facebook, but that's not right. I should post there because it's easy, it's quick, and people see it who don't follow my business account. Real life friends see it, real life family members see it. Real life family members? As if I had virtual family members. Anyways, so yeah, I think it's important to catch yourself when you're just posting where you're feeling comfortable, but not going beyond that. Now I want to talk about what positive things this has brought up for me. Not that these things were negative, but I want to just say how it has also shown me my own strength and how I can contribute to the collective. So the first thing I want to say is I'm very inconsistent with my interests. So generally, if I get interested in something, it lasts for a week or 2 or 3, and then I move on from it. But this is showing me that I can be consistent. If I'm committed to a cause, if I'm committed to something and I make commitments publicly or privately, I can stay committed if I really have passion for it, if it really matters to me. And I think that's a good experience to have for the rest of my life as well, for other areas of my life. And it has also shown me the things that I'm capable of if I'm not too gentle with myself, because sometimes I do get in that mindset of, it's okay, you don't have to work anymore. If you don't feel like making a post, it's fine. And I don't mean about Black Lives Matter, I mean in my general business life. I don't do it if I don't have the energy, but not with this cause, because I have a lot of passion for it. And I want to take that passion to other areas of my life as well, that it is teaching me to basically look beyond my own discomforts and beyond my self-care and really put my mind to something and then do it. And I think that is a very powerful thing. What I really appreciate is when I see people of color commenting on my stuff, or I see people of color sending me DMs and saying that I'm doing good work. It means a lot to me. That's not why I'm doing this, but it definitely shows me that I'm on the right path even more. And I don't care about the voices of white people in this, in all honesty. This is a bit shadowy, but my compassion for this has run out. My compassion for white people who are made uncomfortable, who tell other white people not to speak up so much, or who even tell Black people not to speak up so much, or not to riot, or not to do this, not to do that, telling them how to handle their trauma responses essentially, and how to handle their life. I have no patience for that anymore. And that is why those Black voices or people of color's voices matter even more to me. Not that I need it. I would do this work either way. This is something I thought about as well. But even if nobody ever commented on my stuff, I would do this work as well. I can say that with certainty because it comes from within. It comes from a fire within me that I feel it matters, you know, that it's important. And I see my audience as white people who are working alongside me in large parts, because most of my audience is white. I can't deny that. I can't take that away. And I think that's important to pay attention to as well, that I want to inspire people to work on this. I want white people to be in a place where they know what to do, they know how to work on this, and they can do that, you know, and I can encourage them. And at the same time, I'm also amplifying melanated voices, as the hashtag goes. And yeah, that's basically what I want to do. And it just, yeah, it's good to feel the support. And I think this is also something that I moved past very fast, is that it's not just about showing solidarity and saying, you go, I support your cause passively, but to actually do the work and to use our white privilege to help Black people be heard. Because if you're white, people listen to you more. You have a bigger audience in a lot of cases, and you reach the audience that needs to hear this stuff. And I think that's so, so important. And that is why we have to use our white privilege for that. Even if you don't have a platform that is huge, even if you have 50 followers, it doesn't matter. You still have a voice that matters, and it reaches people that matter in this fight. Now, the third part, where I complain and talk about what bothers me about the spiritual community and how they are dealing with it. I'm going to touch on some different points than Kellyanne. Once again, I highly recommend that you watch Kellyanne Maddox's video about it. It will be linked below. So I'm trying not to repeat her points too much, so you have to sit through me saying the same stuff. I'm going to talk about some people that, some things that have come up for me as I look at this discourse. And there's a lot of anger involved in this. I'm trying not to get angry about it. I'm trying not to get too emotional about it. But you know how it is, huh? So yeah, first I want to talk about how much it affects me that there's many people who don't post, and people in the spiritual community that I follow, people that I have worked with, people that I talk to regularly, and they don't post about it. I have to lean back, you know. I have to. I shouldn't get so angry about it, but I do get very angry at it. And you know why? It's not because I'm like, haha, I will police these people that they did something wrong, they posted something wrong, or they didn't post at all. I'm going to show them. No, it's pure disappointment and pure disillusionment on my part that so many people that I know in the community and that I talk to think it's okay not to post, even though we should all know at this point that white silence is violence. We should all know that at this point, and still people don't post, and still people don't talk about it. And even when people do post, sometimes I get angry because they just post like, oh, I'm not political, but let me say something. This isn't a political issue. This is a humanitarian issue. Another post I saw was saying like, oh, nobody asked me to post anything about this, but I guess I'm going to come out and say, and then they said something in support of Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, why did someone need to ask you to post about this? Why do you think that someone needs to ask you? It should come from within you that this is an important cause to support, you know? And another creator that I follow made a very long video essentially just saying, and this is something that is a bit controversial. I want to talk to you about this and I want to hear your opinion. So this creator said, I stand with you. I can't understand what you're going through, but I support it. I can never fathom it. Tell me how to support you. I don't know how to support you, but I'll do my best, you know? And I really have to keep myself from writing comments to these people saying, first of all, Black people don't need to educate you. So don't ask them how you can support them. There's so many resources out there. So many people are speaking up. Don't ask them. It's nice that you express solidarity, but you should put a call to action into your video, into your content if you want it to matter. If you just say, I stand with you, I'm in solidarity with you, it's not enough to me. But I've heard a different opinion on this. And it said that, hey, you know, maybe this helps some children, some people of color who see no representation of themselves in the media, and their voices don't matter, their struggles don't matter, and now they see that people stand up in solidarity with them. Shouldn't that matter? Doesn't that matter? Doesn't that help in itself? And I'm very torn on this. I'm like, yes, I understand that argument. I understand that it's good for Black people to hear, I support you, I'm there for you. But if that doesn't come with an action, if it doesn't come with a call to action for your audience, I just wonder why, you know? And it's people who have marketing skills. It's people who know how to get other people to do things. You have to have a call to action. You have to ask people to do something, which is why also in the description, I'm going to link directories. I'm going to link things where you can sign petitions, where you can donate, because I know sometimes it's a bit confusing and you can't find everything on your own. And I want to provide resources. Anyways, so what do you think of that? Do you think it's enough to say, I stand with you, I can't understand your struggle, but I'm there for you, I support you? Is this enough? Because it's not for me. Supporting someone and actively doing something for a cause are two very different things, because it just makes it seem like they're doing it, you know, not because they want to or because it's something from within themselves, but because they're like, oh, you reminded me of something that kind of matters. Let me help you with that a bit. I don't know. Tell me your thoughts about that. Because I'm paying really close attention, I can tell you. I'm paying very close attention, especially in the first few days of when this happened, to the people that I support and to the people that I follow. And I started following so many Black creators throughout all of this, and I think it's not going to take long before I start unfollowing a lot of white creators who did not speak up, and who I probably should ask why they haven't. And then there's all these white people in the comments praising them, being like, oh, thank you for expressing your solidarity to people of color. this is why you are a special channel to me, because you don't just talk about whatever topic they usually talk about, but you also talk about political things. And I'm like, oh, whew. This is like them praising each other as if they are doing enough. And it makes me upset. And on the one hand, I think this is an issue that I have to deal with personally, but I think it's also an issue that white people have collectively and have to realize that we sometimes praise ourselves a little bit too much for doing the bare minimum. Then hearing things like, I have nothing to add, my voice doesn't matter, or I don't know enough. These are shadows that probably affect all of your other areas of your life. If you feel like your voice doesn't matter in this, you probably feel like your voice doesn't matter in a lot of other areas of your life. You know, this is also something I hear when unrelated to the Black Lives Matter thing, when people talk about why they haven't made a YouTube channel. They are like, well, I feel like I have nothing to add to the discourse. And I am so compassionate to that sentiment, because so many people feel like that. Like, you have to realize your worth and your value and realize that your voice does matter, because you have something to add that nobody else has to add. But then when they take this mindset and apply it to something like this, that is where my compassion ends, where I think you should do your shadow work around why you think your voice doesn't matter or why you think you don't know enough to speak up, and it actually keeps you from moving forward. And this is a good Instagram post that I saw that I'm going to show here about the different zones, like the zone of comfort, of fear, and of growth. And I think many people aren't just stuck in the fear zone in this Black Lives Matter discussion, but in so many areas of their life. And that is why they don't bring into reality what they could bring into reality, because they are afraid. And I think this is something we need to be very aware of and work through, and then post, make our voices heard, because you do matter. Your voice does matter. It always matters. So use it. Use it to uplift this cause, you know. I understand that social media isn't easy for everyone. I understand not everybody is like me. I understand not everybody has this stoicism, determination, and inner fire. But still, everyone struggles with these three zones, and it's a matter of self-development to move through them and to move into the growth zone collectively, rather than staying in the fear zone on an individual level and on a collective level. And I also want to share another post that I found very helpful, that highlights spiritual bypassing and very problematic responses to Black voices. I will put it right here next to me, and it's essentially something that can help Black people validate, or people of color validate, their own feelings and validate their own struggles, even when mostly spiritual people say things to them that are about bypassing, that are about just being quiet, just change your mindset and it'll be okay, and ignoring the collective issues, the societal issues. I think that's everything I wanted to say in this. I know it's long. Thank you so much for sitting through this with me. Share your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts. I would love if there was a discussion in the comments, and I'm also going to link many resources below: journaling prompts, where to donate, how to find things, how you can help, so that you feel empowered to do this and don't think I don't know enough, I don't matter, etc., etc., and so that you can work through that. So thank you so much again for being here. Let me know if you want me to make videos about other topics about this. Let me know what you thought in general. And I really hope that we can stick with this fight, that we can stick with the commitments that we have. Feel free to also post your commitments as well. I did that under one of Kellyanne's videos as well, to hold myself accountable, and I did it on my Instagram. It's very helpful. And yes, thank you again. Fight the fight, do what you need to do. And I hope that you have the best of days and the best of weeks.